views. Taking the other side of this point is licensed mortgage and real estate broker Fred Glick. Good to see you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Maria.
So, Dan, most people would think raising mortgage rates at this state of the housing market would be really ridiculous. Why would higher rates actually be a good thing?
Right, it's the counterintuitive take, right? So in any economic situation, you've got supply and demand to worry about. And they both, in this case, actually suggest that rising interest rates could help. On the supply side, we've got banks who, right now, most mortgages are funded by the government still, but those ones that are kind of on the bubble, they're the questionable ones. And right now, banks are very worried about mortgages that aren't perfect because they're worried about putback risk, which we saw last week. Bank of America got $1 billion of loans put back by Freddie Mac. So in those cases, a little bit more yield, a little bit of a higher interest rate will encourage banks to take a little more risk. Now, on the borrower side, you're seeing people pretty much used to these 4% rates. It's become the status quo. To kind of get them moving, to kind of encourage them to now buy, they're going to have to get worried that these rates are going, that they're not going to be around forever, that they're going to have to start seeing rates rise.
Right. Fred, what do you think about that? You're on the ground with buyers. You're sensing their sentiment. Would higher rates get them off the fence?
They don't care.
No?
This is all about once you get a job, once you're comfortable with the job, then you say, I want to plant roots. I remember back years and years ago, rates were at 7, 9, 11. It didn't matter. The fact you had a job was all that matters, and you could comfortably afford it. Now remember, with going to the banks and the risk, you have to qualify for a mortgage now, and it is harder. And if you loosen up the credit guidelines, maybe you get a few extra buyers in. So it just really depends on the market itself, but it's all about people being comfortable. And it doesn't matter if it's 2% or 7%.
I mean,
they can afford the payment, they're comfortable, they can always refi too.
Anecdotally speaking, the people I talk to anyway, I know quite a few people are kind of sitting on the sidelines because right now, unlike in normal housing markets, a lot of people are waiting to make sure that they're at the bottom, right? And until that happens and rates are low, they're kind of waiting around to find that deal. But if rates start rising, they might say, you know, I don't think home prices are going to go down that much more.
I mean, how much better can it get at this point?
Yeah.
Well,
really?
I mean, there's no zero.
Yeah, but how much urgency is there, right? If they think rates are going to be low for another year or two, they can wait for that bargain and not have to worry.
Dan, I've talked to people over the years, and yes, there are the neurotic spreadsheet-doing engineers who they are waiting for the absolute bottom. And it's just not going to happen. They're not going to get perfect. I don't know what it is if they got the ego that they could go to a party and say, hey, I got things at the bottom. It doesn't matter. It's all about comfort. I've talked with somebody today in Orange County who's trying to buy a house. There's 4 offers on it, and they're cash deals.
Right.
I mean, they're killing each other. It depends on the market.
So what, are they not comfortable right now? What are they uncomfortable with, Fred?
Well, they're still uncomfortable with that possibility that home prices haven't bottomed. I have a lot of friends and family in South Florida who, you know, prices are quite low there compared to a few years ago, but they just don't want to buy a house and see another 5% go down. They've seen their friends and relatives hurt too much by that already.
What about you, Fred?
And
what
Dan,
are you
I'll give you that, but yeah, well, I just want to say, Dan, I'll give you that, and it depends on the individual market. If you're in Fort Myers, Florida, where the economy is based on basically tourism and there's tons of supply, yeah, it still could go down. But if you're in New York City, I mean, it's insane. Orange County, California, Philadelphia. I know I go through it with people today.
Yeah.
It's insane that it's a seller's market in some particular areas. So it's all about the area.
I think a good analogy here could be the home buyer's credit that we saw a couple years ago. When it kind of got near expiration in April or May 2010, whatever it was, you saw this huge boom, right? People started entering the market because the situation was changing. Right. Again, you'd see as soon as rates start climbing 4.5%, 5%, people are going to say, uh-oh,
well,
6%
maybe for a little while because they'll feel like, oh, I don't want to miss it. Maybe, you know, maybe the cycle is about to turn. You wonder. Gentlemen, thank you. We'll be watching that. We appreciate it. Up next, so has the market hit bottom? The housing market? For an answer, you may need to look at Stockton, California, which has been the foreclosure capital of the country for much of the past years. That's where we find Jane Wells with a Spring Realty Check. Jane, over to you.
Maria, this home was once valued at $275 grand, now on the market for $35 grand, an 87% drop. But here's the good news. There's only a 1-month supply of homes here.
Have we hit bottom?
I think we have.
And if I've said that
before.
Paul Jacobson listed this house for $160,000 for a nonprofit run by Fred Scheel, which buys and rehabs foreclosures to sell to families, not investors. Finding buyers has been easy. The problem, they say, is prying the shadow inventory from banks. No one knows how many of these houses are filled with people who haven't paid a mortgage in months or years.
The market was distorted going up because of all these ridiculously easy to get loans. It distorted the market, so the prices shot up. Now it's still falling. It's distorted because now the banks are distorting it through controlling inventory.
This is what a house looks like with every piece of copper stolen.
In 2008, realtor Kevin Moran showed us this torn apart Stockton foreclosure.
I think a more conservative investor will offer him $25,000 all cash.
4 years later, that's exactly what the home sold for.
Oh no, I see walls. Now there's doors.
But just as prices are stabilizing, Stockton faces bankruptcy. Residents gathered for a town hall last night, and Moran warns that layoffs could hurt home prices again.
And the primary employers in Stockton are the city and the county government workers.
Tenants, renters, buyers?
We're renting right now. We just went down under, and we short sold, and this is where we're at now.
Bottom line, times are still tough. But even new renters like Larry and Donna Giacomini feel that if this isn't the bottom, it's close.
It can only get better. You know, it'll get better. So another couple years, hopefully we'll be able to buy another house.
Now, prices are still falling, but Maria, for a first time in a long time, demand is outstripping supply. Back to you.
That's a good point. Jane Wells, thank you. Up next, the heat is on. It's not exactly rocky, but in the battle of big government versus small, we've got the former top economic advisor to President Clinton in one corner versus Republican candidate Mitt Romney's top walk in the